Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar, How Construction Firms Save More Than 700 Hours a Year on Repetitive Tasks with Intelligent Workflow and Automation. This event is brought to you by Engineering News Record and sponsored by FlowForma. I'm Ellen McCurtain, Custom Content Editor at Engineering News Record and your moderator for today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. In 2022, process automation and digitization tools will continue to soar with manual processes being digitally transformed. Today we'll hear how Sullivan Engineering, America's fastest growing firm, is using process automation to overcome their manual processes. We'll also discuss the increased uptake of digital process automation in construction and engineering as organizations look to operate as efficiently as possible, keep overheads low, and stay ultra-competitive. Leading today's discussion, please welcome Shay O'Connor, Head of Solutions at FlowForma. Joining him today from Sullivan Engineering, we're excited to welcome James Monahan, Principal Building Envelope Systems Consultant, and Anthony Gottman, Senior Building Envelope Consultant. A highly skilled professional in the IT industry, Shay has significant experience in providing clients with analysis, design, and implementation of business development solutions, particularly with the no-code FlowForma process automation tool. Shay has worked closely with FlowForma customers across the globe to streamline and automate their business processes. In 2016, Jimmy started his career in project management and building envelope consulting at Sullivan Engineering. He currently oversees numerous building envelope restoration projects in the New Jersey and New York markets. Jimmy focuses on construction administration services, FISP inspections, building envelope surveys, and leak investigations as part of his operations role. Anthony moved to New York in 2020 and joined Sullivan Engineering. Since then, he's been leading building envelope restoration projects and has expanded the company's services in Massachusetts. Anthony's passion lies in automating processes which stem from his desire to empower people. At Sullivan Engineering, he has automated some of the firm's key processes. I'll rejoin our presenters at the end of the webinar to answer your questions that have come in throughout the presentation, so don't forget to submit them in your Q&A section of the webinar console. And now I'll hand things over to Shay to kick things off.
Thank you very much, Ellen. So, guys, and welcome everybody today to our discussion. First of all, I just wanted to introduce basically the current digital state of construction. We were lucky enough to have done a survey of over 300 organizations across the globe last year. During the year, we got, as you can see, we got a lot of results here from the organizations. We did a questionnaire, and we basically found out that across the globe, and in general, I won't call out all the stats because I'm sure you can read them, but the reality is that most organizations are not engaging with full digital process automation. They are leaving a lot of their processes to include manual pieces. They lack visibility. The big upshot of that is that their data is not normalized. And as the guys in Forrester Research would say, when there's a manual item in the process, it's actually considered broken, especially in these days that we have at the moment. Now, the guys from Sullivan have come across this, and I know Jimmy and Anthony, your goals were to become paperless, and you realized you had to start somewhere. And as you can see from the stats here, that a lot of people felt that they're not in that position or they don't have the skill set to do that. But you guys decided just to go for it. Can you tell me something about that, Jimmy?
Yes, part of automating the process is now that we have an expanding team working in multiple locations across the country now, as well as the challenges of the pandemic with everyone working remote. it was kind of like an absolute necessity that we had to put something in place to, because not everyone has the same printing capabilities, and you can't share prints with your teammates if they're not in the same office or the same location. So, digitizing these processes that we have was a must have, and there's also a major cost savings to not, printer ink and paper is pretty expensive as far as overhead, so, as well as the environmental impacts. So we always had that goal for the last, I think, 5 years to go paperless, but it's easier said than done, especially when you're used to doing things the same way for a long time. But the pandemic kind of forced us to move quicker, and FlowForma was one of the ways we were able to do that.
And that backs up exactly what like Forrester Research also did. They had a big session with a lot of their customers across the globe, and they would have created stats based upon the interviews and the different setup that they had with those companies. And basically all of the respondents to their questionnaires, they came back and there was an 80% tilt towards those that they were in a position where they needed to digitize more, basically. So not to go into all the stats here, but the reality was that they weren't fully up to speed or fully grasping the whole digital concept of especially job maintenance, job management on a day-to-day basis. And I know, Anthony, you have a passion for trying to digitize in a way that the organization doesn't skip a beat, so that I know it's not going to be seamless, but it's as close to their way of thinking as possible, which is a skill set in itself.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a scary process. Like Jimmy said, we were debating on whether or not to do it. And it's always, with every company, there's always a diverse sort of different skill sets in the company. Some people are more technological savvy, some people are not. So we got to be mindful of that. And the resistance is always going to be there for change, whether or not to digitize. But we kind of made the decision to just rip the Band-Aid off and just digitize, because we have it's do or die. Things are moving fast, and we got to adapt.
Well, on that note, just on your specific case study here, I mean, you guys went at this as you decided to rip the Band-Aid off, and I know you found it that you knew it was going to be tough to start, but just to give those that are online at the moment an idea about you guys, Jimmy, can you just give us a background on Sullivan Engineering, please?
Sure, no problem. So Sullivan Engineering, we started around 12 years ago. We focus on building envelope consulting. For those not familiar with that, we basically oversee through design, inspection, and project closeout for any projects related to roofs, facades, sidewalks, parking garages. So we kind of oversee the work on the outside of the building. A large portion of our work is done in the New York City metro market, as well as Boston. Those who are not aware, New York City has a very robust facade ordinance program, which basically requires buildings to hire firms like Sullivan Engineering to perform inspections and to perform, oversee design repairs to make them compliant with the law. We also leaking into buildings is another big part of our business, where we have to investigate where the sources of the leaks and basically source repairs as well. So through that, there's a lot of project management related services that we provide. So we will, bid out the projects to contractors, and then we'll go from the filing phase all the way through construction. And then during construction, some of the more robust tasks we have to do is project oversight. So that includes generating field reports, holding weekly meetings with the contractors, and generating those deliverables. Things like punch lists, change orders, RFIs, and such like that.
Yeah. Basically, you've got a lot of activities going on all at the same time with a lot of different projects, and I can only imagine how detailed you got to be on all of these projects. I mean, you're going to have to report on all of this. You're going to have to make sure that everything is done the right way all the time. I mean, this is a crucial that all of your jobs follow the correct steps and make sure that everybody's doing the right thing. I mean, that's just, I know that's a given, but that it seems to me that you guys are especially in the space of making sure that, when you can't be everywhere at the one time. So you got to know that everybody's working to the same level and the same standards that you want on every site.
Chili, what's been very important to us is now that a lot of people are working remote and aren't necessarily sitting next to each other in the office all the time, is when we're generating these reports, we have pretty strict turnaround time. So 2 days. We deliver these in 2 days. We promise that to our clients. So a lot has to go into that. And to ensure that we're providing the best product, we needed a process that would essentially keep the branding of the company. So all our field reports, all our meeting minutes, all our leak reports look the same. And we were able to do that by creating these processes, by digitizing them, and by putting it down.
Yeah, and that leads perfectly onto the next question. I mean, your motivation, guys, to digitize processes. I mean, you started it off there, Jimmy, but Anthony, can you let us know? I mean, let's say, Jimmy, you started off, you needed to do all this work and needed to standardize.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me personally, I'm an engineer, so I'm lazy, right? So I don't want to do the same repetitive things over and over again. So that's how I got myself into automation. I used to be the guy that's resizing reports, formatting reports to make sure all your margins look the same and they look they look the same from report 1 to report 2, and for different projects as well. So the number one driver for me was that. But as a company, like Jimmy said, we measure our report turnaround time as a key performance indicator. So all our field reports and meeting minutes need to go out within 2 days. As you know, construction is very fast paced. So if we get these reports out in a week, things might have changed by then. So we wanted something that was easy to use and that will help us achieve and strengthen our guarantee. Not only that, I guess efficiency and productivity is also something very important, right? The more happy our clients are, the faster we get these reports out, the more projects that we can take on as a company as well. Accuracy as well. So we use FlowForma wasn't the first reporting solution that we used, and we looked in our previous reporting solution. We had to do something in our iPad using an app, and then we had to go into Excel and track different quantities and budgets, and it was messy, right? We didn't want that. So we want everything to live in one space. And FlowForma allowed us to do that. And lastly, I think empowering our own team is also a big personal driver for me. I know there's a lot of movements, with the big resignation of people just moving companies, people not being happy with their jobs. And I used to be unhappy, like I said, doing these reports, and I used to just drag my feet and not do it. After, being out on site on a full day, I have to get back to the office. And sometimes, with our previous reporting solution, I would write my reports and things would crash, things would go missing. And imagine how frustrating that is. And we wanted something that's, reliable and that will empower our team to do more of what they love, not mundane tasks.
Yeah. And just so you got to the point then, obviously, of looking for a tool. And for the guys, again, who are listening in, Jimmy, what did you look for in the process automation tool? So when you went out, you said, right, we need certain things to happen.
Yeah, so we actually did a whole quarter case study, Anthony and I and a few others on our team, where we spent basically 3 months just researching platforms. And what we were looking for something to streamline, basically digitize a process like what we were doing. We were doing it with kind of multiple pieces. We would write the draft in Word, and we would store the photos elsewhere on a server. We would mark up a PDF and then mark up a drawing, and we'd send it to our project coordinators, and they'd have to kind of compile it, right? So it was a little bit messy. So we were looking for something that the user on the front end side, on the operations as a consultant, could essentially compile it in that first iteration. And it would not only, it would save us, our project coordinators, a tremendous amount of time in peak season. We're in the construction industry, so when the weather gets warmer, business really starts to move, and there's a lot more work. So that's what we were looking for. And one of the other things we're looking for is as you start to grow as a company, you need to start, detailing your processes. Not always just the field reporting and stuff like that, but even internal things and how things are done, right? When you're a small company, a lot of those processes kind of live in a handful of people's minds, and they kind of just naturally, relay that information to their teammates. But when you scale and when people are working remote and aren't in the office 40 hours a week or what have you, that's hard. So then you get people doing processes in different, they're not following the same process. Yeah. So one of the core things was, by doing this, it forced us to basically put our process through a digitized form like this. And it it's like a centralized place that everyone knows, right? They don't have to like reinvent the wheel. Like, hey, how do I do this? They just go to the
basically, when it's digitized, it's documented.
Yeah.
So you know it's in front of your eyes, documented. I need to do this step, and it goes from there to there to there.
And if we have to make any changes, right, things aren't perfect. You're never perfect the first few tries. You're always learning. So if we decide, you know what, we don't like the way this looks, we got some feedback from our clients, we can change it in one spot. And it just automatically the rest of the team, they'll get the update when they open the app the next time or go online. And it saves those headaches that Anthony mentioned, right? I don't want to spend my time talking people through these parts of the process every day.
Well, this is a biggie for most people. I mean, you got a lot of people out there who are interested in digitizing. They know it's going to be more efficient. They know it's going to be cleaner. But you're going to have to get support from stakeholders. Now, stakeholders can be those who are going to make the final decision and those who are actually going to operate. So everybody kind of has to be happy. From your guys' point of view, and Anthony, what advice on how to get buy-in from stakeholders?
I think in terms of the process, it needs to like work really early and often, right? So what we mean by that is we have tried different solutions before, and we don't want our teammates to think, this is just going to be another solution that we're going to have to learn, but it's going to, it's going to crash again. It's going to do the same thing. So we need to have a system that's reliable. Rolling it out easily and seamlessly is also something that we need from our solution. Construction is a busy industry, so everyone doesn't have the time to necessarily sit down and spend hours learning how to use a new software. So we needed something that was easy to use for all our team members, regardless of what their technical experience is as well. We have a lot of processes that were like Jimmy said, we do leak investigations, we do building envelope surveys, we do field reports as a part of our day-to-day operations. So we needed something that could be easily adaptable to all those as well. And when we hit, like Jimmy said, nothing's perfect, right? We always hit snags, and we create a process. It's not going to be perfect the first time. So when we solve these things, we want to have support from a team that that can get to these issues quite quickly. And so resolving these issues with speed is also something that we need to look for in our solution.
Yeah, and Jimmy, you were talking earlier on in regards to the branding and standards, that getting buy-in from stakeholders was important, that they saw, hey, listen, we can standardize when we digitize and we can brand properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been something that's when they started the company, Brian Sullivan at Sullivan Engineering, 12 years ago, was, everything's going to go out and it's going to look the same. Because if you have people sending different products, right, and you can't, as a owner of the company or a principal, you want everything to kind of look the same. And if it doesn't, how does that go, with our clients, right? They get a report done by somebody else who maybe hasn't been working at the firm long enough to really know those processes by heart, and it looks nothing like the standard report that they know and love, right? So it's just a bad look for your reputation, and that's part of the reason why it's so crucial to have that branding. And one of the other challenges we had with you get is the buy-in from the team, but also when we were looking for solutions is through the higher ups making the decisions, right? Like, when we first started looking for solutions years ago, it's like, I want it to look exactly like this. And sometimes you have to adjust your processes so that, with the technology that's out there. And we were able to actually streamline our process a little bit that we never really thought about,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. The big thing that we always find as well, and I'm sure before you launched your first process, it was adoption. And adoption from the guys using it, from anybody out in the field, people in the office. Adoption was paramount, because it's all very well having this great idea, and the concept is spot on. You know what you want to do. You've got the right tool now, and so on. But it's no use if people don't adopt it. So
yeah, so we had to. We learned from a previous solution we were using. I wouldn't really call it a solution since we're no longer using it, but it didn't, like as Anthony said, it crashed. It was very limited in how you could use it. It was only able to use it on your iPad. So for people who didn't use iPads, it was incredibly difficult. So it kind of, when you're lurking a long day and you want to write your report and that's becoming a challenge, people will resort to the old way that they know used to work. So people would essentially stopped using it and then started, writing everything in Word and Excel and just going back to the old method that worked. So when we were starting with FlowForma, we knew early on, we're going to have a beta test period. We're going to pick certain individuals to kind of try and use it with different backgrounds of technical savviness. And we'll get their feedback, and then we'll tweak it accordingly. And another thing that proved is we rolled out a simple process early, and that allowed our team to kind of ask questions on something that was less critical to our operations.
Very good. And then, of course, they have that familiar look that is going to happen on every process. So you're going to have that familiar look and feel. And on that, I mean, you've got the stakeholder buy-in, which is paramount. Now you've chosen the tool, you've got the buy-in, you've done your testing. So what processes, Anthony, what ones did you start with?
So we started out with the easy one. So hopefully this will be a distant past, that we started with our COVID checklist. What we needed to do from each one of our team members every day was we needed to get everyone to do a COVID checklist, just to mention, just to see if they're sick. That allowed everyone to get used to the interface. So FlowForma works in both on your desktop and also in your mobile app. And so that allowed them to log in and sort of hash out the initial issues. How do I log in into FlowForma? How do I do this? How do I do that? And before we start rolling out our more complex processes, like our field investigation reports and our leak investigation reports. Like Jimmy said, our bread and butter work is in construction administration services, where we have to go out to site and do our field reports based on our site inspections. So that was the biggest thing that we wanted to tackle using FlowForma. So normally people would go out to site and observe things and come up with punch lists, and also come up with quantities that we need to track of what they saw on site, and also observations and photographs and descriptions of what they saw. And we basically digitized that and created a template for that using FlowForma. And it kept everything in one spot using FlowForma speak, what they call lists. It's basically a big database which keeps all your information in there. Yeah. So that's great. We didn't have to, move between different software. Like we used to have Excel to track our budgets and numbers, and we used to use word processing software like Pages for Microsoft, for Macintosh, or Microsoft Word, and we didn't need to do that. Everything lived in one spot.
And I would imagine, making things more efficient like that in the first place is going to save people's time. It's going to make them happier in regards to what they're doing. It was a great idea to go with a simple process first to get people, sort of accustomed to using a digital environment, and then getting that buy-in. I'd say the field inspection reports and the leak investigation reports used to have a lot of handwriting on it, and I would imagine a lot of marked PDFs or.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of senior PMs in our office just mark up everything by hand. They would have a PDF, or they would print it out and handwrite it. And, my handwriting's bad, right? People can't read it. So using FlowForma allowed us to use track changes seamlessly with Word. So we would create our field report, and it would generate a PDF form and also a Microsoft Word sort of document. So
Yeah.
that allowed people to just go into that document, put on track changes, make whatever changes they need, and everything lives in one document. So document control is seamless, right? So we don't have multiple versions of the same document flying around.
Yeah, and as you were saying earlier on, Jimmy, you've got that standard document now. You got that standard template that when you run your process, it outputs in a format that is consistent. So you're going to be looking at the same reports for different projects, but they look and feel all the same.
Yeah, it makes it easier for all parties involved. The project coordinators who are kind of looking at the grammar and the formatting and making sure everything is in order, and also adopting any comments that might come through our senior PM review and as well as our technical review. So kind of having that in there, it streamlines everything. And the track changes has changed my life quite a bit as someone who reviews a lot of reports. Marking, clicking in Word is much more friendly and tracking your changes as opposed to trying to free write on a PDF with a stylus. And my handwriting is actually worse than Anthony's, believe it or not. So,
Okay.
the coordinators on our team are much happier with the reviewing of our products.
Yeah.
And one other key thing there is if we needed to make one change to the template, we don't have to have admins who are looking at these reports, 5 admins who are making the same changes over and over again. You can always just make the change to the master template, which can be applied to all your other reports. So you only have to make the change once rather than duplicate the effort.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Now, this is quite a general question, but I guess everybody would like to know is the benefits that Sullivan Engineering has seen since you started digitizing.
So, I think there's a satisfaction amongst our whole team. I think having something that we can do more on the front end is saving us time, as well as I know our project coordinators, I think that cuts their time in half. Instead of looking at the photos, uploading it themselves, we're doing it on our end. So there's a huge time saving, which obviously leads to cost savings, and allows them to take on almost twice as many deliverables as they normally would. Also, from a review point of view, it's great for training purposes. A lot of times when you have multiple people making these changes to the field reports or comments or something like that, it's hard to track and to learn from that when you're handwriting. But now that we're using track changes, we can copy the original author of that field report, and they can see what we're changing, and they can see what tech review is changing, and they can see what the admins are changing. And so that has been very useful for our training program and for people learning that way. Another benefit was, when we were growing quite a bit the last few years, we've doubled in size. And when you're in that period where you're bringing people on and you're trying to get to a new solution, right? You don't want to train people on multiple basically to do multiple processes for the same deliverable. So we were able to, roll FlowForma out relatively quickly, probably a fourth of the time of any previous solution we worked on. And now we were getting new team members on what we wanted, not some old software that we were going to essentially become obsolete. So that has been very helpful as well.
Very good. Anthony, from your point of view and your time creating the process as well, what the benefits do you see?
Yeah, I think the benefit of it is also just during our onboarding process, a question was asked. We were looking at our field reporting process and would normally, we looked at it from beginning to end, where it would go to which person. So, the project manager would be looking at the field report, putting it together. The admins would be making changes. Different person would be looking at tech review. And we looked at that process and said, how can we digitize this? But the question that was posed by FlowForma was, well, how do you want it to be? Don't look at your current process as it currently is. How would you like it to be? Think outside the box and think what can be done with it. And no solution is perfect, right? So there's always drawbacks and limitations. But It made us think, how can we do it using FlowForma? What can we do with our current process to make it work using FlowForma?
Yeah. Well, it gives you an opportunity. I think when you're digitizing it gives you an opportunity to, and especially when you get feedback and you get the results from the data, it gives you an opportunity to see what you want as an end result and kind of work back and say, right, can I get there a little bit quicker and a little bit better and easier?
Yeah, I think it makes it better as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Jen, another huge thing for us was so we're using kind of 3 processes right now, and obviously we're gonna, Anthony and I are gonna continue to work to build more. But the field reporting process was the longest one, right? Because it's our most robust port. But from that, we were able to, I think we generated the COVID checklist in like less than a day. And then the leak report was probably less than a week. And it wasn't even, when I say a week, I'm not talking working for a week. I'm talking an hour here, an hour there, because we have other parts of our jobs. So because leak report was similar to the structure of the field report, we were able to, pick up that process very quickly. And when we go, now that we kind of have that, that structure, that skeleton there, we can, it will be cut the time in half when we do a different type of report, like a roof survey report or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's,
building on that as well is we don't have to code anything. That's what really drew me into the solution in the first place. I used to automate process using Python or whatever other programming language that you want to use, but you'd have to learn this programming language and it would take months. So I don't have time for that. So I wanted something, the logic is still there. Using FlowForma still uses the logic in programming, but you don't have to learn any code or any syntax or anything like that, which is great.
Yeah. And that goes back to your sort of at the start, the whole idea of empowering people is that you're now going to be in a position of being self-sufficient. And so whatever gets you there, I mean, when you have that as a driver at the start, and it's funny, and not every organization, and again, we had this in the stats at the very beginning, there's so many organizations that haven't digitized, but they also aren't in a position to actually come to the table knowing what they want. So they just know they want to have, digital and automation and the data better. But coming and saying to yourself, okay, not only do I want that, but I actually want to become self-sufficient here. I don't want to have to rely on programmers. I don't want to have the long-term effects of, wow, Joe or Jane has left the organization. They knew how this worked, and we don't know their code. And I used to be a programmer, and every programmer says when they take on someone else's work, I wouldn't have done it that way, right? And it's always, that was terrible. Who was the person that did that? But you don't have that when you're just dealing with logic. You're just going in, you say, okay, I can change this logic. It's quite straightforward. So far in your journey, what takeaways would you share with the audience? Jimmy, I'll go to you there.
Yeah, I think one of the big initial takeaways we had, right? We had our process of what we wanted, like our end goal, right? But what we found was we only did our field report. We probably only took it about 75% of the way, I would say, or 50% of the way, because we had a lot of work coming in. We were hiring, recruiting, and we found out, we're like, instead of trying to make this perfect, let's just take off this one, huge bottleneck from our team. So we rolled it out, and we have a review process. Eventually, we're going to put that back into FlowForma completely, but we're like, let's just use the data collection tool and generate the documents and get it, make our project coordinators' lives a lot easier, and our team. They were getting frustrated with the old solution they were using, and training was becoming difficult, and you were starting to get that vibe from everybody in the company. And we rolled it out, and knock on wood, hopefully, I'm sure now that I say it, but things have been going well, and I'm sure we'll get like 3 calls now that something happened, but hopefully not. It really, from a reviewing point, it makes my life, it's cut my review time tremendously. And right. Opening up PDFs and trying to find a product that can easily mark up, things, it's difficult. We've all used, Adobe and stuff like that. Opening up, the Word doc and just throwing my comments in there and seeing who else it's made life a lot easier.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anthony, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, I guess building the solution that we have wasn't a one person show, right? We needed to have a really strong team to help us achieve what we want to achieve, and having a diverse team that we have team members with strengths that are their weakness, that are my weaknesses. I tend to want to get everything perfect 100%, but if I do that, we're not going to have a solution. We're not gonna go anywhere, right? So. What is the minimum viable product that we can get out, and help and make, small changes rather than trying to achieve perfection. Because if we're trying to achieve perfection, we're never going to get anything out. So one thing there is to keep it simple as well. And that helps roll out the process easier. Don't overthink it. You're always going to get bugs in any sort of solution that you use, but it's something that you can easily tweak as you go, rather than trying to spend the time overthinking it and getting every single bug out and never getting anything out to begin with. You can also roll it out in steps as well, in stages to I would say a pilot team first, a smaller team before the rolling out the entire company, and that was really helpful for us because that helped sort out the initial issues. People had questions, rather than have 40 project managers ring me up at the same time asking about the same question. We only have one little team asking us questions, and we could tackle those initial problems first. So I think that was
and that makes sense with the minimum viable product getting out there. So it's like, as they say, perfection is the enemy of progress. So get something there, get feedback, make the changes and so on, and just keep the fact that you've already said the fact that you can take care of it yourself, as in make the changes yourself, you can turn it around. Keep people happy.
To that point, that was cute. That was really crucial for us. And I know, Ron, Anthony is much, the logic and coding is more up his alley, but this was, it is followable. The logic is easy to follow or, set up. It's a lot less, I guess, matrix-like, I like to call it. But one of the big issues we had with the previous program we were using was we weren't able to make any changes on our end. So we were completely relying on the company to make our changes. So when we had major glitches or, perhaps the change order chart wasn't updating or it was printing on 2 pages and it looked like crap, we couldn't maneuver quickly to fix it. Whereas with FlowForma, look, we don't know all of the solutions. We have to sometimes, bring you guys in to help us. But Anthony could hop on in 10 minutes, see what the issue is, and fix it if he can, right? And then we're back up and running. So I remember at one point it took months to get them to fix it because maybe we weren't a big enough fish in their pool, in their ocean, or maybe that person left, right? If the person you're dealing with, isn't there at the company anymore, right? It's it gives us, like you said, empowers. It gives us the opportunity to kind of help ourselves when we need to.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's also great with the adoption side of things because when people give you feedback and you actually react fast, so they see the results of their feedback coming in like pretty much, on cue, they buy in a lot quicker. Whereas if they give feedback and, hey, it takes weeks for changes to occur, and you're going to get guys, I asked for this to be changed weeks ago and nothing's happened. And, so the adoption is going to improve when they see that feedback being applied.
Yeah, we set up I don't think it's weekly, we kind of do bi-weekly meetings for a FlowForma team where essentially we have our regular team meetings with our project managers and senior consultants. And if an issue comes up, they can now put it to that team. And then it'll come up in our meeting every other week, and we can, if it's an emergency, we'll go outside the meeting, of course. But if it's something like, hey, I think it might, maybe this will look better if we did something like this, or maybe we can add this gadget or something like that, or widget. Yeah. Okay, we can look into it, and we could, it's not going to take months, it's not going to take years. We can react quickly.
Yeah, I think it's good to separate out what is essential as well as what is nice to have. So if we have an issue that we discuss in these meetings that are critical, that we need to solve it now because it's impacting how we do our day-to-day operations. We get on it really quickly. But if it's something that's nice to have, we can communicate with FlowForma and say, hey, look, it would be nice if we could do this, and we can do that.
And that leads perfectly into the last question for you, and that is, what's next on the agenda for you guys?
Yeah. So I think roof surveys, building envelope surveys, proposal processes, proposals. I'd love to get in here. We have a million templates, and depending on what type of project, the location, right? Obviously, different locations have different, you have different budgets and stuff like that. So it gets a little bit confusing, whether you're in New York, outside of New York. So one of our goals is to build it out into FlowForma. So when someone wants to generate a proposal, they can kind of just answer a series of questions, and the correct information will populate. The correct budget charts, correct contracts, correct riders, right? The correct scope of work that standard language. Because one of the challenges with having a manual proposal process is your rates change, right? Your rates change every year, or at least ours. Most people's rates change every year. So if you have someone, or maybe legal comes down and they want us to add some clauses to the proposals, right? So when you have a whole slew of people working on different templates, or someone decided to save a template on their desktop instead of working off a centralized location, they could be putting together something that's no longer accepted by the company. Now you're relying on people's ability to review, you're putting it a human factor. You're upping that to make sure they catch that. And we move. Everyone moves fast. So if we can digitize that, which it'll be a nice long haul, I'm sure, but it will speed up our turnaround time on our proposals. It will make everyone's life a lot easier generating them, and our clients will be thrilled because now we can turn around in half the time.
And Anthony, we were talking as well about the fact that the forms that you're about to create, when you're not manual, you don't have to include everything on the screen at the one time. You can put nice controls within the form that when you select this happens. When you select that happens. You see this, you see that.
I think it's the logic that is really nice, because we could set in parameters to say, hey, look, we want to show things if it meets a certain criteria, and it's there. The ability to do that is there. It keeps the form lean, like you said. It keeps it. People only see the bare essentials that they need, because you don't want to have a lot of information in there. Like, we need to fill out everything in there, but we want to show things when they hit certain parameters, and FlowForma allows us to do that. And I think what's really great as well is that it's easily adaptable to a lot of the processes that we have. A report is a report. The architecture is the same. So we could reuse what we have made with our field reporting solution and easily adapt it to, a leak investigation survey, or a building envelope survey, or a roof survey, or something like that. The possibilities are, that's pretty much.
Okay, guys, I want to thank you for answering all these questions and getting everybody up to speed. We will have a bit of a Q&A just in a couple of moments, just so everybody knows. So FlowForma is just a small bit of information. It's an application that sits on Office 365, your Microsoft Office 365 environment. All of the data that is retained is all retained in your tenancy. So we never have your data. We, as I say, sit in that platform and use the infrastructure you've already purchased. One of the takeaways from our point of view, anybody who is looking to digitize, is the fact that just go for it. I mean, the guys, Jimmy and Anthony, were saying so far, I mean, they knew at the start this wasn't going to be a cakewalk. It wasn't going to be an easy trail. So, but to go for it. The reality is everybody's going to be digitized in 5 years' time. The difference is people who are digitized now will have 5 years worth of data to work off, and they will have improved their processes immensely, and they'll have worked efficiently and improved their margins. You've got the whole facility there of becoming self-sufficient. Once you have a supporter in the organization, you can achieve anything. We would always encourage trying to, take a trial of it. Don't just believe us. Give it a go. It costs you nothing. Try it out. Webinars and chats like this will be online. You can check out what other people say as well. So when you start using it, the reality is, and I'm not going to go through these examples, but these have come from specific customers who have basically given the feedback as part of reports to their management and reports to their hierarchy as to the impact of digitizing. And as you can see from them, you don't get anything but positivity. I don't know any organization who has digitized and has gone backwards. They all keep progressing and keep on that path. And as Jimmy and Anthony were saying, they always have that next plan ahead. We're going for the next thing. Okay, we can do that and we can take care of that and just keep improving all the way. I'm going to hand over, and thanks for listening to us, guys. I'm going to hand over to Ellen now just to see if there's any questions for the guys.
Thank you all. That was great information you've shared with us. Before we have you address some questions, I'd just like to remind the audience we love your feedback. So please take a few moments to complete our webinar survey, which you will see on the screen now, or you will be directed to it at the end of the presentation. And now for our first question. This one for Shay. This audience member says, as part of the digital process, are you gathering data and performing data analytics and BI looking for new non-intuitive insights? And are you able to use predictive analytics to predict outcomes factoring in historical results?
So we would consider that to be, that's not machine learning, but data, your education through the accumulation of your data. The reality is we have the mechanisms there that you can collect data, you can derive bottlenecks in your process, you can derive different scenarios based upon the information that's been collected and make decisions based upon that. It won't automatically make those changes for you, but what it will do is provide the data to make those decisions, especially when it comes to, as I say, the bottlenecks in your existing process. It will actually tell you that, hey, this is late, you're behind time, give notifications, and will basically tap people on the shoulder that they're meant to do their certain work and or move it on to somebody else who's available. But from a machine learning or a data learning point of view, we just provide the data for you to make those decisions.
Thank you. Another question for you. Any advice on how I can improve communication or engage with my processes with suppliers and contractors?
Okay, very interesting. So something that we didn't touch upon here during our conversation, but you can actually include externals in the processes. So your processes are basically broken down into steps, and you can decide that a certain step or steps within the process can be done and can be performed by externals, and they don't have to be part of your Active Directory or your Office 365 environment. They only get to see what they need to see as well. So they only get to see their step. They can fill in their information, attach documents, whatever, and submit their step. And it's seamlessly part of the full process. So that environment, and some companies will utilize that a lot, say, especially when they're dealing with subcontractors or suppliers, especially.
Thank you. This question's for Anthony. Anthony, what challenges have you seen with adoption of new technologies, especially if with a distributed workforce?
I think the challenges there would be, I guess, resistance from a lot of people, right? Like they're used to doing things the same way. There's going to be always resistance from people. We don't want to change. We don't want to do this, but we got to be mindful that this is for the better. Whatever change we're making it with our team, in mind. We want to empower them to make sure that we don't create the same mistakes in the past. We have used different solutions in the past, and we've come up with issues, and we want to gain their trust in rolling out a solution that is reliable.
Thank you. This one for Jimmy. You mentioned that you yourself are not tech savvy. How have you adapted so fast, and how have other non-tech savvy people adapted? And could you speak a little bit about the learning curve?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was talking about the tech savviness, it was the people actually creating the processes. But as far as the rollout has gone, as Anthony mentioned earlier, what was key to our process was getting rid of a lot of the noise. So just putting in small steps where minimal information can be entered, so it's not distracting to your team. So, if you open up a process and there's 35 questions right off the bat, it could, cause people to jam up a little bit, or, maybe they don't save properly. So we added a lot of little steps, and the rollout's been pretty good. Obviously, I think the biggest challenges we had were just making sure everyone knew their passwords and signed in and how to download the app. And that was, I think, the biggest headache we faced. And it really wasn't, that was, pretty easy considering. I think you need a little more savviness when you're building the processes and, patience, I would say. Anthony's got the patience for that. But not everyone on your team likely is going to be doing it, right? I don't think you're going to have, if you have 100 people, I don't think you're going to have 100 people creating their own processes. You'll probably compartmentalize a little bit so you can keep that branding, right? You don't want everyone being able to change a process and, without having, approval from the higher ups or whoever's, overseeing the operation.
I think building on that as well, having a strong team behind that understands the solution that you're implementing is good, because it's always good to bounce ideas back and forth. Sometimes, we hit a bug and I would think about it for days and I'm like, how do we solve this? And then I would discuss it with my colleague and she's like, oh, why don't we do this? And it seems like a simple solution. So having that team behind that speaks the same language in terms of whatever solution it is that you're using is key. And part of our onboarding process, shout out to Jim Smith from FlowForma. He really walked us through the onboarding process and talk about the languages, the language that you would use in FlowForma, like the steps, the processes, and the logic behind it as well. So it allowed us to communicate within our own team without having to involve FlowForma too much and solve issues ourselves and be self-sufficient basically.
Thank you. Also for you, Anthony, since switching to FlowForma, do you find the staff are more satisfied?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every time we get a bug, I would always ask them, like, hey, how is this process compared to other processes? Like we said, nothing's going to be perfect 100%, right off the bat, but it's about making those small changes. And we definitely have seen our team members don't have, like we said, don't have to resize photos. It's mundane. It's boring, and they get to do more of what they like to do, whether it's, going out on site and learning a new skill, walking your dog, whatever it is. You don't have to sit in the office and just do the same mundane task over and over again. And like I said, it's, people are moving from company to company right now. They're being unhappy, they're unhappy with their jobs, and keeping your, employees, your teammates happy, it's key. I think it makes them happy just being, at work. So, yeah.
To add on that, one example that was very noticeable early on was when we were doing it the old way, we would tell our coordinators what the photo numbers we wanted in the report and what we wanted the captions to be. And, as you go through the review process, a lot of times maybe a photo was incorrect or was damaged or the wrong number. So you get the report, you're like, that's not the right photo. But now that we're through FlowForma, that's happening on the operation side. They'll catch that early on. So we're catching problems earlier in the review process or in the drafting process. And that's speeding everything up. So now instead of me having to be like, well, my review, you got to change this, this, and this, that's already been caught. So like maybe that review was good to go. And now, we got it out in a day as opposed to 2 days. So that's been beneficial.
That sounds like it saves a lot of time in the end.
Big time.
One of the feedback we get as well is from the admins, right? The admin is, I would say, the one who benefits a lot from this solution that we've implemented. So let's say they have a comment from our technical review saying, hey, look, the margins in this report is not right. And they have to do that for one report for one project manager. But they're not just working with one project manager. They're working with like 5 project managers who give out 2 reports out weekly. So that quickly multiplies, right? They have to do the same changes 10 times. Whereas they could just pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, look, your master template isn't working as it should be. Can you fix up the margin in this? We could just make that change in probably less than 5 minutes, roll it out, and just update the templates that we have, and the admins won't have to ever deal with it ever again, right? The change is made and it's permanent.
So that that alone, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I guess our final question, I want to turn to Shay. Is it possible to build reports and dashboards to reflect data collected from business processes?
Well, the quick answer to that is yes. I mean, basically, you're now collecting data, normalized data, consistently across all of your processes. We would always encourage filling data sets with information. You could have existing data sets there that you want to either pull information or push it to. You might want to just fill lists up with data, but the reality is you collect it automatically throughout the process. You collect all of the audit information automatically. That gives you the facility, as say we sit on the Office 365 platform. You can push out the data to Power BI, to your Excel, whatever you like. But yeah, the collection of data, the big thing is that you can stand over your data because you put in the rules that govern that collection. So now, instead of taking a few days, and as Jimmy was saying earlier on, they have to report on projects within 2 days. You now can stand over the data that's being collected because you put in the rules that governed its collection. So yes.
Well, thank you very much. We are just about at time. So please, everyone, once again, join me in thanking Jimmy, Anthony, and Shay for their presentations, as well as our sponsor, FlowForma. If you have any additional questions or comments, please don't hesitate to click the Email Us button on your console, and we'll share them with our presenters so that they can respond directly to you. Thanks again for trusting us with your time today. Have a great day.